Well, my next guest is a woman who has owned multiple businesses, including distributing high-end products to med spas and beauty salons. And she then went on to actually get into more of the coaching business, where she's a business strategist. She is a mentor. She is a mindset coach. She holds multiple certifications. And she actually has started a business called Amplify and Impact. I absolutely love that name. I think it's a great name, especially for today's entrepreneurs trying to get their voice out there and trying to get known and gain that visibility, which I think a lot of women tend to struggle with. And she is the host of the soon to be released podcast called The Comeback. So I am so grateful to have her joining me today to talk about her journey, the highs, the lows, etc. Please welcome Rachel Weaver. Hi.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored and humbled to be here today.
I'm so grateful to have you here. And I know that you're in the middle of a move. So it's been like, oh gosh, how can I juggle this and still be on and make time for this while you're trying to move? So thank you for being here and kind of opening up your schedule a little bit to join us. I had mentioned when we first connected that I had met you on Clubhouse, basically. And I love that app because I've met so many different people on Clubhouse, and I've been able to, it's kind of like you drop in on a podcast in a sense, and you can join a conversation. And, there's just so many people that I don't think I would have connected with otherwise, especially when everything shut down for a while and you didn't have those events that you could go to. So I'm just thankful that I was able to meet with you and then, kind of hear a little bit about your story. So I would love for you to kind of take us along your entrepreneurial journey. Like, I know you own multiple businesses. What were some of those companies? And then also explain a little bit about the beauty industry, because you kind of made your mark in that beauty industry and distributing different products to a variety of different high-end salons, med spas, etc. So if you can just kind of walk us through how you kind of got your start, and then we'll get into kind of where the transition was into the mentorship.
Okay, great. Yes. So many years ago, I just had all through college, I kept having this whole, do I want to continue on in the business and journalism field, or do I want to step into something with the salon industry and beauty? Because I've always had this passion for beauty and for salons and spas, and just so much excitement, like the feel good of stepping into a salon. And so shortly after college, I decided to step into the industry of the distribution of salon and spa products, because I just didn't have in me the creative side, the artistic side, to actually go to cosmetology school. So I knew I needed to stay on the business side. So I partnered with a company that distributed very high-end salon, spa, and med spa products, and slowly understood that the way to go in that industry to build anything is to set yourself apart from everyone else. I was the type of person who understood, if you want to really make your mark, you need to be different and you need to do it right. And so just throughout the first couple of years, I quickly realized that if I wanted to make a big impact in this industry, I was going to have to step away from my current partnership and do things the way that I felt would grow a business fast. Now, there were pros and cons to that, because with everything we start new, there's always learning lessons and failures, right? But I was super, super blessed and grateful, because I partnered in the beginning. When I learned my mark, I contracted with a company and learned the ropes. Okay, so if you will, I partnered with them. I learned how to actually go out and speak to the salons and spas. Now, I understood business and the psychology of business and sales throughout, just through learning in the university and being on sales teams through college and that sort of thing. So I understood how to sell, but there's just so much more when it comes to the salon and spa industry. So especially when you're selling to the actual business, it's not like selling to an everyday person when you're working with businesses. So I learned a lot. I learned things that I didn't want to take with me, and I learned things that I absolutely needed to take with me in regards to opening my own distribution center. And with that came a lot of trial and error. However, I quickly was able to go from starting my own company and only being in 2 to 3 states to 13 states and 3 countries within a matter of 3 years.
In just 3 years, expanding it that quickly.
Yes. So it was a risk. It was a huge risk, but I understood that I only wanted to partner with companies that were deeply committed to the actual physical salon and spa. Deeply committed in a way where they were not going to settle for selling out to online opportunities. They were going to stay committed to making sure their products were not sold in larger big conglomerates such as Ulta, Sephora, the big chain stores. They wanted to keep their products of high integrity in the hands of professionals. And so those were the product lines that I partnered with. And because of my commitment to these high-end exclusive product lines, I was able to stay true to, I'm very, very committed to the environment and committed to making sure that we're being that we are being responsible with the products that we put on, not only ourselves, but also putting into the to the atmosphere, really, because there's a lot of, not so eco-friendly hair products.
Right.
And it can be very unhealthy for the stylist, for the customers, and for the environment. So I partnered with very high-end exclusive product lines that were deeply committed to the same things as I was. And I understood very quickly that when you align yourself with things that you feel passionate about, things are just so much easier on both sides.
Such an important point. I think that's such an important point. And I just want to stop you there for a minute, because that is where I think oftentimes people miss the beauty of, or even really kind of getting into the flow of going towards your success and making your mark and actually building a business that you want. A lot of times say people, want to start this entrepreneurial journey and they want to build a business, but all of a sudden they get caught up in, okay, what's the fastest way to make money and such. And yes, that's a huge part of it. But when you can align with something, when it feels right in your, in your heart, in your soul, and when you're acting in integrity, you get into a flow, and it's a complete game changer. The money actually starts to flow and it becomes easier. But I think what happens is there's this ramp up period, and it's like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this the right way? And it's like, no, you can't just be chasing the money all the time. It's got to be where you're in that alignment. And I think a lot of times we hear, just you can turn your passion into your profit, etc. And people oftentimes go, oh yeah, right. How am I going to do that? But they can't see the how of it. And so that's where I feel like people pull back and it trips them up. So I love that you said that, because everything you're saying is that, you wanted to partner with something that you truly believed in and that had the same values as you. And you brought up a point early on. You said, well, when you started into your own venture in doing that and distributing these products, it was that you took some things with you that you wanted to take, but you also didn't take some things. So can you go back to that? What are the things that you kind of said, what I don't want, this is what I don't need?
Right. So there were things that I learned that I probably in the very beginning, I didn't, you only know what you know, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I thought, what, money was much less important to me, okay, than fulfilling this purpose, because I've always always believed from a very young age, when you're in your purpose, the money's going to come. When you're serving and giving and you're pouring in, that the law of reciprocity will come back to you. So I've always believed that. I'm super, super blessed because I grew up with a grandmother that taught me that throughout the years, because she also was an entrepreneur. And that's where I think I learned some of my desires and passions to own my own business. And so I really believed the law of reciprocity was going to take care of me. Now, it was risky. Okay. When I first started, I didn't have, as many responsibilities. I was just this person who was really trying to live out my purpose and my passion without, the family being started and things like that. And I'm a risk taker. So I knew that if I went out on a limb, it would be okay to some degree, but it's still scary. So the things that I left behind, I will say, is there were some product lines that the previous company that I had partnered with, or that I learned a lot of things from, that I was contracted with. They were more about understanding the bottom line, okay, and the dollar. And if a company that was a little bit bigger and a little bit more established was also going to work out a deal where they would allow certain things to go into the big box stores and the rest stay exclusive, they would still partner with them because the money, the name was out there, would become a household name. So it was easier for advertising. And so while there is a lot of good to that when it comes to business, when you have the business in mind, there's a lot of good, because it's less advertising for you because people already know the name.
Right.
But I quickly also understood that once you step foot into one of those big box stores, because there's so much red tape, right? We live in a world of Amazon, and we have for quite some time now. And so I learned very quickly that if I partner with one of those companies who had the intentions that they wanted to stay exclusive, but then money started to speak louder and pennies started to speak louder. Once you partner with one of those big box stores, or partner with a company such as a big, for example, I'll give you an example, L'Oreal. It's a very large company. They own many, many brands underneath of them. But when they buy out these brands, they also change the ingredients in the bottle, okay? And so I learned very quickly that that was something that I would not sacrifice on. And by doing so, it can give you more money up front when you decide to partner with one of those companies.
Right.
But then it takes away from you in the long run as far as financially. So a lot of people are very hungry and money driven, like you said, and they see those dollar signs, especially when you're first starting, it's so hard because the investment you have to make into getting the products into your distribution center and getting the names out there, especially if they're smaller companies, or even if they're larger companies, but they're very exclusive. Or maybe one of the largest companies that I was partnered with was out of Italy. So it was still building its brand and its name in the US. And now it's one of the top brands in the US. And they've kept their integrity. And we became the biggest distributor for them in the entire world. So wow, I think that because of the fact that I believed you have to go in with faith. And so the company that I learned a lesson for, that I left behind, was like, don't go after the money in the beginning, because it will come. It will come if you stay true to your passion and your purpose. So that was one thing that was very, very important to me. The other thing that was very important to me was to understand where to delegate. Okay, because we're not an expert in every area. We're just not.
Right.
and to let go of the things that you're not an expert in.
That's such an important point. I think that is probably one of the biggest downfalls of people that are trying to build a business. And I always say the faster you can bring somebody on to help you. And look, there's so many different ways to do that. You can hire a virtual assistant and at a low, kind of fairly low fee.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a ramp up, you have to train and such. And I record things to train, with them. But the faster you can do that and lean into that and learn how to delegate, because that is not, I have found that is one of the weakest links for people trying to build a business, because they feel like, especially when you come into entrepreneurship, especially when if you haven't been a CEO of let's say a corporation, and you're running a business, and most people that come into entrepreneurship, they've been in, a lot of times it's in what I have found, they're in sales or they're in some area of the business where they're feeling dissatisfied and they're like, look, I'm ready, I'm ready to start something. But they've had a team around them. So they haven't learned, that team's been supplied to them. They haven't learned how
Yes.
to build a team. So I love
Yes.
that you brought that up, because when you talk about, quickly growing in 3 years, growing in 3 years and having a distribution center and having, in all different countries and such too, did you have a team? Like, how quickly did you build a team around you?
It takes time. And that's another thing that I learned, like, don't sacrifice on your team, and treat your team the same way you want to be treated. So for me, building out the culture was everything. It was everything. And I learned that through internships while I was in school and through working. I'm a worker. So like, I worked from the time I was 15 all the way through college. I've always had some kind of job. And I understood just from a very young age, like, how I wanted to be treated and how I was treated, and how I always just had this vision. And I'm somebody who is always learning. So I don't really watch TV. So it's not a conversation I can have. But I mean, I think all the way back in high school, I was already reading Zig Ziglar books and things like that. So I just understood very quickly to take with me and remember, when I was building out my culture, to treat the people that are working for me as if they had ownership in the company, as if this was theirs too, especially when I first started. I wanted them to be celebrated with every success I saw in the business. I couldn't have done it without them. And so every time we had little minor achievements, I would throw them a party. Like, when you're building a culture and you're building a business and you don't have the means to, have something big and fancy, little things go a long way with people.
Oh, absolutely.
Recognizing them. I would call them on the phone and just show my gratitude immediately when something would happen. If I couldn't be there in person. And we would just have a pizza party. Sometimes we would make our own pizza. We would bring a grill in and do something, just something to celebrate every little win in the beginning, because that makes them feel like they're family and they will commit to you. Because at the end of the day, people remember how you make them feel. They're going to remember that far greater than anything else. Even if you are paying them at a higher level, but you're not treating them the same, what I found is you can pay them more money, but if you're not treating them the way that they want to be treated, the way that makes them feel special, I like to say, I want to treat anyone who works with me or works for me as if they're working with me, as an entrepreneur. They're an entrepreneur for the company. So they are off on their own and they are doing their thing that's their area of expertise, and they feel some kind of ownership in that company.
That's
whether they have
absolutely important. So important, because you talk about creating a company culture. And that's kind of the driving force. That's a big part of it. It also kind of proves that money isn't necessarily a motivator, not for everybody. It's more about the recognition and just being praised for, doing a good job. paying attention and being invested in it
Yeah.
as well. And there's a huge
Mhm.
push right now that I know in corporations that are bringing in a lot of people that are trainers, corporate trainers or leadership trainers and such. And they're really talking about helping your employees develop an entrepreneurial mindset because it's helping them see that, look, we have an ownership and a vested interest in a sense in this company. And yes, they may be getting rewarded with certain incentives and such, maybe monetarily, but and I do think there is some validity to that. But I also think that, people want to be recognized, and it's so important. And also know that, look, I am invested in this, and the decisions I am making are being seen and are having an impact on what I'm doing. And I think that's so important because it really does speak to the company culture. And earlier, you also brought up being cognizant of your uniqueness. Like what could you do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? And that's also, I think, so key. And it's really, in marketing, it's called your USP, your unique selling proposition. And it's what is it
Yes.
that helps you to stand out? And so, like, did you sit down and kind of think, okay, this is the thing, these are the parameters, this is how I'm going to make this work? Or do you feel like it kind of evolved over time for you?
I think it kind of evolved over time, but the one thing that I think helped my company grow immediately, um, to a larger scale than I ever even dreamed, okay, was because any person, any business, any small salon or spa that partnered with us from the very beginning and decided to bring in a package of our products, they immediately received in-person training, not just on the products, but on the business. And there's this really brilliant man in the hair salon industry who is an icon, and unfortunately he passed away. But I took on his method of the 8 steps to financial success in any salon spa. And I would go in, and then I would train some of my people, but I loved it so much that I would fly wherever it was that I could get to. If we brought in a new customer, I worked my tail off to try and make sure I was there to help them every step of the way in the beginning. To teach them the 8 steps to financial success. And it is all about the customer. It is all about the customer and the team culture. From start to finish, the team culture, developing that team culture. When you develop that team culture the right way, they're going to deliver the ultimate customer experience that makes every single person who steps foot into their store or their salon or spa feel special. And when that person feels special, it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to remember you. They're going to remember where they're at. They're going to be committed to you. And yes, we do want to train our people to the highest level possible, especially when we're talking the salon and spa industry. However, people remember the way you make them feel. They're more forgiving if you make a slight mistake on their hair. They're more forgiving if you're 5 minutes late. Because every time they walk in their door, they feel welcome, they feel warm, they feel happy that they're there. And when they leave, let's be honest, for any lady out there who can say they don't most of the time feel so good after getting their hair done, whether it's just a blowout. So we want that feeling the second they walk in the door. And we want to help them understand that they can continue feeling that way because of the way that we train our salons to be able to speak to the client so that they can replicate what they're doing and at home. And so that was just part of the 8 steps to financial success. And because of the fact that we took that step to make sure that everyone who partnered with us received this type of training, not just on the product. So they received the product training, of course they did, but they also received that personal touch to be able to level up their business.
Yeah, that's I love that
Immediately
because
once they partnered with us.
it's such, it's something that I think people tend to, well, I would have to say, in today's world where there's so much information out there on the internet coming at us so quickly, and there's so many courses and such, not knocking courses. I think they're incredibly important, and I think they're incredibly helpful for certain things. But I also think that just adding that other little touch of
Mhm.
the live interaction, of being involved in really helping somebody understand whatever it is that they're trying to implement. It's kind of
Yes.
like what you said earlier about Zig Ziglar, reading all those books. Zig Ziglar was actually my very first mentor. I met him at a sales conference years ago. And when I was in sales, and literally within the next 2 months, I became the top salesperson in my particular company at the time. But it was, everything he said, the gist of what he was saying is that you can get anything in life you want if you will help enough other people get to what they want. And initially I didn't quite understand that. I'm like, well, that sounds self-serving. And then I'm like, oh no, I get it. It's all about, really going the extra mile, upping the game, giving more, providing far more value. And it makes a huge difference, because what that does is it helps you to retain those clients as well. And it is a lot easier to build a business when you have existing clientele that know, like, trust you, that love you, and that will sing your praises, because then it, opens the door for referrals, but also you have that ongoing relationship with them. So it's kind of like, that you've already got those sales and that
Yes.
business, and it's not that much more effort to actually do that, to put a little bit more energy towards that. And so I love that you brought that point up, because I think that's so important. And I think it's oftentimes so overlooked.
It really is. It's so true. It is overlooked. But taking those few extra steps to help other people win in the beginning, oh my gosh, did it come back for full circle? Because that training, like, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. If we get our team to implement this, do every single 8 steps with every single person who walks in the door, our sales are going to skyrocket. And they did. And when their sales skyrocket, guess what?
Yeah.
Our sales skyrocket.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it came full circle. The more they sell in their salon, the more they order. So it all comes back to you full circle. And it's just that one little extra unique step that set us apart from the other distributors that have great high-end products. And the other thing is that their customers and their clients, they couldn't go to Ulta. They couldn't go to these other places to get the products. They had to go to them. But at the end of the day, it's about professionalism, because so what we also did was we made sure that every customer understood, like, these ingredients are different. And they really were, really and truly. We could trace back every single ingredient that went into the product to the farm that they received it from.
Wow.
Because that's how dedicated they were to making sure it was the highest quality. Without all of we never claimed organic. However, in Europe and in Australia and other places across the world where we partnered with these companies, they don't allow the same things in their products.
I was going to say, they probably are already organic, right?
Right. What we would call organic, it's just more, everything's more natural there, because they don't allow the same pesticides and things. So we talked to our clients, and every single stylist who had someone in the chair, we would have them share with their client why this product is different and what it does and how to use it the proper way. So when someone goes out into one of these other places, these box stores or even online, they're not getting that level of expertise or definition of how to use the product properly on your hair or on your skin the way that it should really be used. And so just those extra little touches, really, it made a huge difference for them. So
upping the whole customer service game, and just really, the delivery, the value added to everybody. And again, it doesn't take that much more effort, but it changes it. It just changes everything all across the board in business and really growing the business. And it's just a few different, just a few little touches here and there. It's interesting. I was talking with somebody about customer service and just we talked about, recognition as well, and just being valued as a customer, just as a customer. And so we were talking about, I was giving the example about a dry cleaners that I had never been to before. And I was looking for somebody, and I was calling around, and they were like, nope, sorry, we can't help you. You can't have it until, whatever, 3 days later. And I'm like, I need it like within 24 hours. So I called the place, and they said, you know what, if you can get it here by X amount, we will do our best. I'm pretty sure we can get it to you, no problem. New customer with them, never saw them before. I had to drive a little bit further to them, but they wrote me a handwritten, redundant. Okay, they sent me a handwritten thank you note in the mail. Who does that anymore? And they gave me a discount, thanks so much for coming and trying our services. Just as an appreciation, we'd love to give you, I don't know what it was, 20% off or something, my next thing. But do you think I'm going to go back there? 100% I'm going back there. I've already been back there a few times, because again, nobody sends that anymore, but it's just taking that extra step that can make such a huge difference in that client retention. And again, it's so much easier to build a business when you have repeat clients. So much.
Absolutely. It really and truly is. Like you said, it's just that personal touch that made you feel good. And that's why you went back.
Yeah.
And so it really is everything. Customer experience is truly everything, and they set themselves apart from the others. Now, you might have received coupons in the mail or certain things like that from but you remembered the way you felt from this other place.
Yep.
And that thank you. And they went above and beyond. They're setting themselves apart to make a difference. And it really goes a long, long way. And I tell everyone, when I speak about my distribution company, and I speak about we sold and we partnered with high-end exclusive products, high-end doesn't always mean more money. It doesn't. High-end often can mean higher quality for the same price. You're going to receive the highest level of ingredients at the highest level of service, but it doesn't always have to mean that it's going to be more expensive. And so just treating yourself and treating your customers like the high-end customers that they are, because I think every single person, when they feel like they are being treated like luxury, it just makes a huge difference. It's just so special that they reached out to you. It's a dry cleaning service, but yet that extra step just made a huge difference. So
right. I mean, you think about that, I could go there's several of them, right? Not far from me, but I mean, you wouldn't think that a company would go that extra mile and I thought, you're right, a dry cleaning service, like what? So, and it felt great, because nobody sends a thank you note. Nobody sends mail like that. Usually it's what, bills? So
that's right.
I got a card, whippy. Oh, it's my dry cleaner. but it was something that, set them apart, obviously. So did you have to go and find a distribution center? Like, did you have to physically get a space?
We did.
Oh.
So I ended up gaining a partner who had a physical location already. So I partnered with them, and it was almost like a garage space in the beginning. And then it just kept growing and growing. And next thing I know, like, we needed the whole building. And so it turned into a larger location, but it's still there, still running, still going great, still ran by incredible people. And I still talk with them all the time, and they're still doing absolutely wonderful. But I did have my exit to sell out my portion in 2018, because I moved over to Asia for a temporary time. But we owned the whole location for, I don't know, since 2010.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So was it because you moved to Asia that it was like, okay, I'm done with this? Or were you just at a point where you were also like, I've done what I wanted to do in that industry, I'm ready to move on? Was it just like, oh, okay, I'm ready for make some kind of transition here?
Yes. So A little bit of both. Okay. I absolutely love the industry, and I will always have my ties, and my, like, a huge piece of my heart will always be there. But I also was feeling this pull, like it was time to do something new, because throughout that whole time and that growth process, I continued to study and to grow, and also to understand through these classes that I would teach, and through partnering with these salons and spas and developing these teams, was that at the end of the day, I started to focus more on helping those businesses that were struggling, to flip them from understanding where their struggle was, and to help them shift the business so that they could start to profit and thrive again. Okay, so from struggle to thrive. And oftentimes that took an entire revival of the business.
Mm.
And throughout that process, throughout that time of working with salons and spas, and even I'd stepped into the med spa industry for a while as well, what I quickly understood was those that were struggling so much was that it was always started from the person at the top, no matter what the story is. And this is in any business, because I've stepped into working and consulting with businesses outside of the salon industry as well. But it's a matter of psychology and understanding how to talk to certain people and pull things out of them, because no one wants to say, well, I have, it starts with me. You know what I mean? It starts with the person at the top. It starts with the owner. It starts with, the executive leader. No one wants to, everyone likes to place blame and think, and, and it's not, I don't think they consciously do it. I think that they see all these issues and these challenges in their team. And so it's easy to say, well, this didn't happen, and this didn't happen, and this didn't happen. But at the end of the day, there's often something that was lacking from the person at the top, that the team ended up going like this. And the communication breaking starts happening, and the processes that you have set in place for your team, or from start to finish, like those 8 steps that we teach every salon or spa, those weren't being met anymore. They weren't doing that to every single person who walked in the door anymore. There was chitter chatter and drama, or, especially in that industry, it's very easy to have the drama and but at the end of the day, when you start asking the right questions, a lot of times you understand that there's personal issues or traumas that person at the top hasn't dealt with, and they're carrying it over into their business. And that energy and those challenges feed into your team.
Yeah. It becomes insidious in a way. It's almost infectious, it's like, if you don't, because it's really the person at the top every business has a foundation it's built on. And that foundation has to be a very solid foundation. And if there's any little cracks and such in it, things are going to fall through that. And so it's not just the foundation of your structure of your business and your systems, but that foundation really does start at the top with whoever the leader is. And the leader, meaning even you, if you're an entrepreneur, okay, you have to treat your business as like, okay, I'm the CEO of it. How do I want this to run? And what you're talking about here really is the whole inner game of entrepreneurship, the whole inner game of, even if you're not an entrepreneur, the CEO running a company, it is personal development and business development go hand in hand. Like years ago, my first entry into my own business was owning a franchise with a personal development company. And I, so like you, lifelong learner, and just love reading anything about human potential, right? And where we can go with things. But it's such an important point that when you can get the inner game worked out, which is what we started this whole conversation with, like really aligning into that, right? When you can get that whole inner game worked out, it completely changes it, because there's so often this mental chatter or this need to look outside of ourselves for the answers, and the answers are never outside of ourselves. They're never outside of ourselves.
No. And it really takes someone else us see that.
Yeah.
We don't even we're not consciously aware of some of the things that we carry with us or that we hold on to. It's that interpersonal work. And sometimes it takes someone else to pull that out of us to understand, wow, okay, I didn't even see it like that.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, like as a leader or as an entrepreneur, there's always that interpersonal work that we have to continue to be doing. And when we become super busy with trying to run a business, it becomes very easy to, take a pause on all of that and to not be as aware. And maybe it's not consciously that we're taking a pause on all of that. We're just super, super busy, but then there's always going to be challenges that we have to face. And when it becomes easier when we're facing challenges, when we're super busy like that, to place blame on other things. So I always tell people, especially in my own business, I always, because I learned this in the very beginning when I had some challenges and issues that were breaks in communication and different things, and emails weren't sent or customers weren't receiving something. It's easy to say, well, these people didn't do this. But at the end of the day, I learned very quickly, like, I didn't do something. I didn't have my hands enough in this, or they weren't feeling a certain way, which easily allowed them to not do their job to the fullest degree. So I always tell people, like, before you place any blame anywhere, like, let's look at what we could have done as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. Like, always take accountability for you first, even if you had no idea what was happening. Look at yourself first.
Yeah.
And that's a big key in developing a team of entrepreneurs, is placing blame on yourself first. Also, it becomes easier to accept when other people make mistakes in the business. It becomes easier for them to see, to come to you and say, I'm having this issue and I made a mistake. They feel more confident and comfortable talking to you when you come to them and say, look, I messed up and I take accountability and I apologize to you guys, and this is what I'm going to do to change it. Because when you do that and they see you take accountability for things, when they make a mistake, they're like, you know what? I saw how she handled it. I'm going to go to her and I'm going to say, look, I made a mistake. And it becomes a lot easier to have that open communication.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's leadership. It's good leadership, and it humanizes everything. It's like, okay, wait a minute, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And when you sit there and you say, okay, whoops, the buck stops here with me. This is what I've done. And if you have that open communication, as you said, that's so important in growing a business, because then you're allowing your team members to truly take ownership of what it is that they're doing, but also know that they can have a place to come and say, okay, whoops, there's a problem here. Here's what happened. And, and they're just, no one's going to say, okay, sorry, done. I don't want to listen to it. At least it's like, okay, we're all in this together and we're growing together. So let's look at this and how can we correct it? And it's more about being a part of the solution together rather than focusing on the problem, because the things that you focus on tend to grow. So when you put so much energy on that, and I've seen this time and time again, not only in my own businesses, but also in others as well. I'm just like, and sometimes it's, it's natural for us to do that. It's like, this is going wrong. But then you kind of have to step back and go, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, I'm out of sync here. Let's come together and kind of figure out what's the fastest way we can get to the solution here, in putting all of our heads together, rather than saying, there's a problem and, kind of trying to avoid it or sidestep it, because it's only going to grow. Just
absolutely.
We're getting close to time, and I really wanted you to touch on a little bit about Amplify and Impact. I want a little bit about that, and then also your upcoming podcast. And I know you have something coming up in Vegas as well. So let's touch on first Amplify and Impact.
Yes. So I developed Amplify and Impact because I quickly learned that, I just have such a passion for helping business owners. I love men and women, but I love working with women. Throughout the last several years, I understood that I wanted to learn more about the psychology of why we do certain things and how to help people on a larger scale and a larger degree. So I went and studied neurolinguistics, and I received my NLP license. And I developed a few coaching programs, one specifically with women, because I recognize that we tend to hold a lot of judgment on ourselves, and we feel the judgment of that society holds on us as women, and so I wanted to develop something to help like release that judgment. So I went into that for a while and I absolutely loved it. And then I decided that I wanted to take it a step further and help business owners. So I developed a program to help executive leaders and business owners to do the interpersonal work that we were just talking about before, to help them show up as the heart-centered, influential leader that develops a team of entrepreneurs who deliver the ultimate customer experience. So similar to what I was doing in the salon industry. With the owner or the executive leader to help them do that work so they can show up as the leader that develops the team, that wants to stay, that wants to be the entrepreneur in the company, that wants to show up as their best. And so throughout the process of, yes, it is. And I absolutely love it. I'm so passionate about helping businesses go from struggle to thrive. And then through a chain of events in my own personal life, I started studying trauma because I went through some significant things that were traumatic experiences in my own life throughout the years. And went back and became trauma recovery certified. And I just realized like everything goes full circle, right? So many of the challenges that are the interpersonal work we need to do come from trauma, come from traumatic events, whether it be betrayal in our relationships, business betrayal, whether it be addictions or mental health issues, all the different things that we tend to carry or be subject to through different people that we love and care about. And we can take those on. It becomes very, it can be very difficult to understand or recognize when we're subconsciously holding on to those things.
Yeah.
So Amplify and Impact is all about amplifying whatever product, service, or brand that you have. I want to help them to amplify the work that they do on themselves and their businesses so that they can make a greater impact on whatever it is that their message is. And so that's how Amplify and Impact was formed. Since then, I've done different group coaching settings. I work still with clients one-on-one. So I still do a wide range of a variety of a few different things, but the messaging, and at the end of the day, what I'm doing is essentially it's all the same. It's just, tailored to different companies. And then I decided, I'm receiving such incredible feedback and everyone tells me all the time, you really should do a podcast. So I just took it upon myself and I said, you know what, let's do it. So I started recording and I've had some amazing people who have been willing to step forward because I love hearing the messages of successful entrepreneurs share a quick synopsis of whatever it is that they had to go through in order to step into this greatest version. So we discuss what tools they use to pull themselves out of whatever struggle it was or whatever traumatic experience or challenge that they had to face to step into that greatest version, to become the person that they are today, to become the greatest version of themselves. So it's all about focusing on those tips and those tools that they utilize to step into that greatest version, not as much the trauma. So we get a quick synopsis of that, but we focus on what actually they did to step into that version.
Such important work, so necessary, and again, just really helping people understand the kind of the inner game and working on that, because man, when you can get that and you can see wherever those blocks are or the patterns and can make that shift, it changes everything in the outer world, completely changes it. One final thing, I know that you have the event coming up in Vegas. If you want to just touch on that briefly.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes. So June 3rd to the 5th, we are hosting a live event. I've partnered with a content creator, a very successful content creator, and we are hosting a live event called Level Up. And we are going to have incredible world-renowned speakers from all over coming in and pouring into people to help them level up their mindset, their mental health, their physical health, their business, their dreams, their goals, themselves. Yeah. Level up every area of their life. It's going to be red carpet style. So we're really doing everything to help businesses either level up their branding, or if you're just thinking about creating or starting a business, this is a great opportunity as well, because we have photographers and videographers there. You can literally brand yourself right then and there at the event. We have hairstylists and makeup artists helping people look their best. We have a celebrity stylist coming in to help people show up looking and feeling their best and understand how to, pair different things together. We have a 360 selfie cam there that's going to be at the event, a private jet for anyone who really wants to level up their marketing and their branding for whatever business it is. And it's not about showing up and being like a baller in a private jet, but it's about understanding the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals who are trying to level their life up and to the highest degree possible, so that they can make a greater impact on the world. And when you choose to surround yourself with those kind of people, you are inspired. It literally shifts your mindset, changes everything. The saying is so true. If you surround yourself with 5 people who are optimistic and motivated and doing all the things, you're going to become the 6th person. Or if 5 millionaires, you're going to become the 6th. Okay. Yep. So it's all about creating experiences when you surround yourself with the right people, so that you can make that positive impact on the world. So
yeah. So I love that. So important, because it's it really is true. Being around the people that you aspire to be, or the businesses, or at that level that you aspire to be, and it just, you're kind of infusing yourself with that, and it's so incredibly helpful. And you're right, it is true, that statement is true. And also that success leaves clues, and by following that and being immersed in that, you tend to see more of that and start to think, oh, okay, I get it now. I can see some of these patterns and such. So Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I know that, especially right now, you're trying to move and you got all this stuff going on. So I'm glad that you were able to make the time to be here and to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. I absolutely loved it. I'm super honored and grateful that you invited me, and whatever I can do to help support you in any way, I'm super excited to do that as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Rachel. I appreciate it. And I will be seeing you or talking with you again, I'm sure, in Clubhouse.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.